Good evening.
Can I share? Nope. All right. Hi, everybody. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the Zoning and Planning Committee, specifically about 641 East Cosset. Oh, Ashley still hasn't logged in on here. Cool. I'm not Ashley. I'm Christian. Ashley was using this for the night out that Atticus did a few weeks ago. So rename. But yeah, specifically, I just kind of want to go over what's going to be coming up at our next meeting here in November. So that way we're not going to be completely coming out of left field with what is going to be presented to us. Coming up, I believe it is going to be on November 10th because the 3rd is election night, and I believe we do not have our meeting the first Tuesday with the election. So specifically, I don't think I can share. Oh, I can, cool. So I will just share. Yeah, so now I'm sharing my screen here. Let's see, we've got the variance application, and then there's also going to be the rezoning application that's coming up on the next meeting for the 641 East Cosset. Specifically, they are looking to rezone. Should have it up. Yep. The parcel here currently is a C4, which is a heavy commercial use with a height limit of 60 feet. So they could build a 5-story building there, and it would be perfectly within the zoning as it stands today. They are looking to rezone this parcel to being the R2F H35 to turn this parcel into the one large vacant lot with the garden today into 10 single-family homes, approximately the same size as the 10 single-family homes that are just on the other side of the alley from it. The R2F residential district, per the City of Columbus zone coding here, allows for single-family dwellings, 2-family dwellings, agricultural uses, religious facilities, parks, schools, public libraries, and then other child or daycare center or conservation watershed protection project, compared to the current existing use of heavy commercial. And the look of the new development here is the 10 lots. The two on the two corners are set back a little bit, but all the rest are pretty close to Cosset Street. So yeah, I wanted to bring all this to everyone's attention to get everyone's thoughts and opinions as to how we should be proceeding. Maybe come up with some questions that we want to have for the presentation, so that way we're not coming unprepared, since we have almost 3-4 weeks here. So yeah, I'm gonna open the floor if anyone wants to bring up thoughts.
Can I start?
Certainly. Okay. I know you have to leave here at 7, so.
Yeah, we're up for the Neighborhood Impact Award, Franklin Park Conservatory.
Nice.
Well, I'm Michael Duty, and as you know, for 12 years, I founded and run the garden. And so it is our intent to propose to Tracy, who we've been speaking to. He was going to get back to me if there were going to be any changes, and I talked to him maybe a week or two prior to his presentation at our last Civic, and there was no plans that he had yet, but apparently there are. He I had somebody wanted to buy it, and I said, how much? He said 500,000. We know he paid 100,000 2 years ago. And so that being said, our proposal is thus that we save that 3 lot as green space and the garden Commonwealth, which is what they do in, it was proposed in the city of Columbus in a large study in 2017 that when these items came up, they would be zoned in. And our purpose for that is we have very low green space in our area. It's 14% compared to similar areas in Cincinnati and Cleveland that are 24 and 28%. Our intent is to ask Tracy to allow that to be zoned in. If he doesn't want to do that, then we will, and we are anyway, getting the advice and opinion from the neighbors. He has listed in this list here that he also proposed. I've already spoken to about 11 of them, and therefore the idea of saving that green space and the garden. Of course, then it would go to the South Side Area Commission, and then ultimately, upon the advice of both entities, to City Council. And so that's where we stand on that, and that's our position. And we have a lot of strong backing already from some folks in power, not only on the south side, but downtown. So that's where we stand. Does anybody have any questions on our proposal? Thoughts?
Michael?
Yeah.
You said 3, I think. So the right end of that map, those 3 properties wouldn't be houses. They would remain the garden. Is that
Correct.
right?
And then there's an adjoining green space. What we've always called the garden, the Commonwealth. And so, yes, those 3 lots would impact Tracy's plans. So he would get 7 houses. And then you know that he also owns catty corner to the northwest, the fenced in lot, that he could put 2 houses on there if he wanted.
Oh, yeah. That's an eyesore.
Yes, and also know that we, in our agreement with Tracy when he bought it, that to continue gardening, we had to mow his lawn, and which we did. And our budget is typically about $800. And so last year we spent $550 on mowing that property. And we also, I offered that I would be the sort of on-site person to look after any type of dumping that was done there. So you'll see multitude of dumping that we called in or I called in to bulk pickup to pick up things. And he was very appreciative of us doing that.
Mike, I have a couple questions, and then I think some of these responses would be directly from you, and some others Christian may be able to clarify. So, first and foremost, for those who don't know me, my name is Atticus. I serve as the area commissioner with the City of Columbus Southside Area Commission. I represent District 2 or Southern Orchard. So as Christian and Mike had alluded to, this will come before the Civic for a vote at our Civic Association meeting. Then it will move to the Columbus Southside Area Commission. Actually, let me rephrase that first. After the Civic Association, it will move to the Zoning Committee of the Columbus Southside Area Commission. The Zoning Committee will conduct an on-site walkthrough of the space, where there will be time for the speaker or the developer or will be able to give their proposal for the variance requests. Then there'll be time for speakers who are in favor, speakers who are against. Then the Zoning Committee will take a vote. Then that vote will move to the Columbus Southside Area Commission, where the presentation again will occur by the developer in regards to the zoning or the variance requests, and then we will take a vote as a commission. If there are no adjustments or changes of the developer, decides to make or feels are necessary to make based off of feedback from the community, that will then move. Christian, is this going to city council or is this a BZA?
I think for this is going to be going to city council in the end.
Yeah, okay.
1 second. I think, yeah, council variance. So it has to go all the way to council.
So this will go before city council, where then, of course, the final vote will be made, and there will be additional time for speakers in favor or against. So obviously there's, we're talking a couple, solid months at least, between, the variance requests that have now been made, and of course the actual final decision. And then we're talking, I think they said, Christian, I think in their initial proposal, they wanted to start construction this spring, I believe, and have at least around half the lot sometime the next 3 years completed. So with that being said, there's certainly some time to organize. I'd say, Michael, obviously I'm new, born and raised in this community, but new in my position. And so, certainly I wished I could have been a part, early on in this work at the garden. I certainly am in favor of protecting this green space and this important, hub for our community. With that being said, it will be challenging at minimum to find legal reasons within the requests that they have proposed to vote against this development. One of the recommendations and one of the things that we follow along as commissioners, or ideally that we should, when we're looking at whether or not to vote in favor of a development, is what's called the Duncan versus Middlefield, which is actually the Ohio Supreme Court standards and directives. To rephrase that, that's Duncan versus Middlefield, which is the 1986. I could go on and give you the whole code, but it's pretty long, in which is kind of a set of guidelines for us to look at in regards to any development. I'd encourage anybody to look that up, because if you want to make an argument against a development of any kind, it's good to look at that to give a little direction as the best, how to compile your argument. Obviously right now I think we're having, good conversations with them. Mike, it sounds like at least up until a certain point recently, you were in communication with them. They were keeping you up to date on what, on kind of what their plans were. I'm not sure if that has, since broken down, but, so I guess I would recommend looking into that, as you kind of move forward. And obviously the more testimony from the community, both specifically residents who live in the community, because that is what's most important. That's what I will take into account more than anything, certainly with my vote. But also organizations that have partnered with the garden, as you mentioned, throughout the city. I know Franklin Park has been a part of it, and plenty of other organizations. So just things to consider. I know you're a veteran organizer, but just to kind of provide a little bit of feedback.
I appreciate it. I didn't know of Duncan versus Middlefield. I'll study that. Thank you. That's very helpful. Let me ask, Atticus, is there a specific, if people outside of our area, I know that people will be sending emails to southernorchards.1982@gmail regarding this, and some people don't have that. I've already canvassed lightly the area. Some people don't have computers. I'll provide them with an envelope with the stamp, and then they can write their own thoughts and send it. Should we just send it to your house, or is there a PO box for our own, for those that don't have computers, like Richard Brown doesn't?
Yeah, so technically, technically, I believe the Civic address is listed as our residence. So yeah, I mean that's part of the deal. So certainly, if residents want to send postcards or letters with testimony, they're able to do so. I would say, and I want to make sure we're inclusive to and include everyone's voice. So I recognize that not everyone has access to a computer. I would say the best chance that obviously testimony is seen broadly, at least leading up to any, public testimonies. And is to send an email if at all possible, if they're able to get to the computer, the library to use a computer. If folks go to, and maybe somebody else, because I'm using my phone, could put this into the chat, but columbussouthside.org. Maybe Christian, if you could type that into the chat, it's again, columbussouthside.org. That is the website for the Columbus Southside Area Commission. And you can find under our commissioners, the entire contact list for the commissioners. And if you want to send testimony in regards to this development, you certainly can do so to the Civic, but I would argue that the Civic, it's really not, you're not going to be making a strong case because, it's only going to be seen by, those who operate that email. You really want to just be there when the Civic votes, on the Zoom meeting. Your best chance for this is to send your emails to commissioners, which will include the chair of the zoning committee. And then you also want to CC Columbus City Council members on that as well, which their information can obviously be found, columbus.gov under City Council. So I'd say you want to send your email to City Council, then you want to send your other email to the commissioners. You certainly can send, it to both parties. And that's where you're going to get to, you'll get the most hits from this.
And you'll carry the ones from the people that get in their information prior to November 10th, and on November 10th, Atticus, should we also CC you in on those? I mean, you're going to get the ones from Southern Orchards, but I'm talking about people that use that little garden and a small little park, if you will, that are in Ganther's Place Driving Park. They do come from all over.
You'll just really want people to specify in their email what their role is at the garden. So you'll really want to make sure that people are clear in their email what their address is. I mean, that's what obviously what any elected official, including my fellow commissioners as well as City Council, that will matter. And if there's anybody outside, certainly they can specify, that they live in Ganther's Place, or they live in, Marion Village, or they live elsewhere, or that they're representing an organization, that is partnered with the garden. You just don't want to specify what their role is with the garden. And,
thank you. And I do have one question. Is November 10th, do I have to have all of those people canvass? I've got plenty of time to do it in our area.
Yeah, that's November a Christian question, but I see him nodding his head.
Yeah, I believe November 10th is our next full Civic meeting. So that would be, it's going to be presented then to the whole Civic, and then we'll vote on it
that night.
That night, yep.
Okay, so November 10th is a very important date for us.
That is the hardest deadline we have as a Civic.
Great. Okay, thank you. Atticus, you had mentioned before, as you and I have been politically active against tax abatements for wealthy developments. This will be outside of the Healthy Homes as a larger project and multiple different lots. As far as a singular lot, this is the biggest imprint, biggest change in Southern Orchard's history since that went from, as far as I can tell, it was a green space until 1946, 47, when Village Meats, Schumann Meats, built their slaughterhouse there. And there's a lot of historical importance to that area. Friends of mine whose fathers were liberated from camps came here, stayed with the Jewish families in this neighborhood and worked there. The cows got loose and went all the way to German Village. There's a whole backstory on this, but leaving that aside, I've got November 10th. What I was getting at, Atticus had spoken before about the tax abatements. Tracy Cohen can also ask for tax abatements. And I know that Atticus and I at least are very strong that that's been a giveaway to the wealthy at the expense of social services out of the city, schools, etc. But one last thing, if I can, and we'll revisit this, but with the Pizzuti project, I talked to a guy that I ride a bike with at Bikes for All People. Jay has property in the short north, and Pizzuti built something down there close to his properties, and they were able to tell him, your trucks come in this area and they go out this area, but they disregarded that, and they really damaged the neighborhood and the tenants that were currently living there. So even when this does happen, I also want to get in that we specify where they come in and where they can park. That's really all I gotta say. I'd love to I can stick around for a couple more minutes and I'll shut up, because I got the other meeting.
So how affordable will these houses be?
250 to 350,000, 100,000.
They said they would sell them at market value.
Market.
So, you know, obviously that can fluctuate, but
That the proposal said, I believe it said something, 250 to 350,000 dollar homes.
yeah, that's, I think, probably the current estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's in the range of what we see going up elsewhere. Is that, do you agree with that?
And just to clarify, I think this goes without saying, but this is also being recorded as well. So I know that we're gonna, upload this. Just to be clear, things like financial pricing and architecture, while they can include those into the proposals, there's no legality that once the variances are requested, unless the language is very specifically included in the variance requests, that they have any legal obligation to follow those. So just want to be clear. I mean, they will sell these on market value, which is Liz,
Yep.
Christian mentioned, can
Hey,
fluctuate.
I'm
but-
sorry to interrupt, but I have a quick question for Michael Duty before he has to
Yeah.
jump.
Oh, sure.
Please.
So Michael, is the November 10th Civic Association meeting, I guess the first time that you will make this proposal to the property owner?
Yes, I had been waiting for him to call me back. He hasn't, but he's aware that my intent from a year ago, that if he does do this, he knows my intent, but not specifically that I'm asking. I had to wait on his plan, which I saw, and where he proposed. He does not know that I am asking for 3 lots for this. So you're correct. This would be the first formal in public that he would be informed of this. But personally, he was told this, that I'm going to do everything to save the garden and a auxiliary, that little green space at the very least. So it's not a shock to him.
Okay, thank you.
And Mike, if I recognize it's not a shock, but if I could make a recommendation that as soon as possible, some sort of formal conversation occur, because,
Sure.
they're coming to this commission meeting with their intent. I mean, this is their plan.
Sure.
So, I certainly, no doubt, present your proposal. You'll obviously have your time to speak. I think that the Civic and Christian and Liz and Ashley will probably need to discuss if we're going to expect a high attendance at this meeting. We're probably going to need to discuss potentially some time limits for speakers.
Okay, I'll call Tracy. I'll call him tomorrow.
Yeah, I would
Just
I would
call me.
probably,
Yeah.
and obviously if you need any help facilitating that conversation or have us be a part of it, then
I'll make the first call. Thank you. I'll make the first call because I have a personal relationship with him. And so, yeah, I don't want to blindside. I mean, it's not really blindsiding him, but he may, it may be manna from heaven where he says, you know what? His mother grew up on Wager. He has the blood of David in him. And so I have the Jewish historical record of this. And he was aware of some of that, but it may be that he says, that's fine. I'll make my money. Instead of making X amount of dollars, I'll make X minus 1. Hard to imagine, but that might be, like I said, a gift from heaven. And then the time limit becomes basically his presentation and everybody saying, great, all are on the same page. I'll call him tomorrow. I'll make that promise. And I do have to run unless there's one more question. And anybody can ask me anything on costcogarden@gmail.com.
Hey, Mike, I also wanted to make you aware real quick, per our bylaws, we are still state that you have to be a member of the civic association to vote.
Good point.
Dues paying member.
Is that, did we change that?
so-
Oh, we haven't, John, we haven't changed we haven't submitted our changes of the Constitution. That, I think Atticus first brought that up, that it's sort of, I don't use the word snobbish, that's not the right word, but for only people that paid the $12.
Yes, my personal opinion is that is unfortunate. We have not changed that yet, but I just want to make sure you know that everyone's aware that that is how our bylaws still
Oh
read.
dear.
So.
Okay. One other thing I see on the list, he has a lot of property owners out of state, many of them. The renters have no say in this, do they? Even if they've been renting for 15 or 20 years.
If you're a renter, you can still join our civic association.
Oh, right.
I
But
think he's referring to the list of the properties
Oh,
within
okay.
125 feet
this
that
right
are
here,
listed here. Yeah,
Liz-
I have it on the screen here.
can Liz or one of our officers, can they get back to me? And even if you just say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, can you tell me, I don't have the list of who is voting, because when I do canvass the area, I can say, by the way, send a check in with your vote for $12 to become a member of our civic association. In other words, can you send me who is paid up and who's not? Because if that's the case, I might only have 5 people out of these 22, and that would be unfortunate.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can send you a list of our current membership.
Mm.
And
Gotcha. Okay,
I can send that to you.
great.
And anyone
Well,
could join to be a member between now and November 10th. Like if they take the $12 to Liz, that they can become a member at any time.
And then they can vote. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Well, that's very good. And all right. Well, thank you so much. I hate to leave, but unfortunately, this thing was scheduled out some months ago for Franklin Park, and we're first up at 7 o'clock, so I got to go.
All right. Well,
All right. Have a nice
we'll let you know.
evening.
Thank you. Happy
Thank you,
birthday,
Michael.
Ashley. Happy birthday, Ashley.
I'll let her know.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. So I guess continue talking here if we want to about, so there are the 2 portions here, the rezoning as well as variance. So I imagine we're going to be voting quite a bit. I didn't know if anyone else had anything they wanted to say. I'm gonna probably just send out an email tonight with maybe the link to the Duncan versus Middlefield, the email for the South Side, or the website here. That's ColumbusSouthside.org. This way, anyone who wants to get involved has the opportunity. But I'm gonna have difficulties. So everything they're showing does kind of fit in with the rest of the neighborhood outside of the sentimental values.
Christian, this is John. Could you
Yeah.
just mentioned there's a rezoning and there's also
Yep.
variances involved,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
So
Here's
I know
the
you
variance.
already went over this, but would you mind repeating what's the rezoning bit and what is the variance bit?
Yeah. So the rezoning is to rezone the parcel here. It's in red in the middle of the screen here. It's currently C4 H60, which means that it is a commercially zoned parcel. So you can do like heavy commercial there. And the H60 means that you could build a building there up to a 60-foot height maximum. So that would be like a 5-story building. It could be built there without having to go to council to rezone or ask for any changes. Instead, the owner is wanting to rezone it to being the R2F and H35, which is everything in yellow on the screen is that R2F H35.
Oh, thank you. That helps a lot.
Yeah, so he's
And what's
basically
the-
wanting
and then the
to.
variances are about the offsets or whatever.
Yeah, so the variances, what I'm seeing are, yeah, having the more narrow lots being only about 30.5 feet wide versus 50 feet wide, and then building houses on lots that are smaller than 6,000 square feet. And the last thing here are the building setbacks, so that they would be closer to the road than the minimums that are currently in the zoning code. So this is just to allow the parcel here to have lots that are going to be as narrow as the lots that are directly behind it.
Okay.
So
And then
this
the houses
one
will be
red
closer
will
to
become.
Cosset than what would normally be zoned.
So there's just some minimum size requirements for a parcel, and they're just asking to make those smaller.
Wasn't there something about the setback from the
Yeah,
front?
so on their map here, you can kind of see that they're showing these houses that are they're fairly close to the road,
Okay.
which is fairly similar to most other houses in the neighborhood. Most houses are like the house is close to the road in the front, and they have the garage in the back, and then they have kind of the yard in between. So that's kind of
the triangle for traffic view on the edges, which actually is better than what we've gotten from some requests.
That's true. Like they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's to make sure that they're not having to get extra variances.
So have you done a percentage on that? If they narrow those lots from what would normally be zoned there, does that amount to losing the 3 lots for the garden?
You know, let's just do a quick calc here.
So if they widen that out, would he only get 7? Let's put it that way. Would he only get 7 if it was as wide as it was?
5 by 7. So so it appears that overall there's about 305 feet. I guess if you did 305 by 50, you'd only get 6 lots.
So he wants to take the 50-foot and make
He wants
it
to be able to have 4 extra.
about 40, is that right?
So instead of being the 50, he wants it to be, I believe it was 30. Yeah, 30.8.
So closer to 30. So
yeah,
that's 3/5. Okay.
yeah.
So he'd get his 7 houses in if they were 50 feet across.
Well, he'd be able to get 6.
There's 6.
And then there would be an extra 10 feet that you could put a garden in.
Okay. I just wonder how that compared to what we're asking, what Michael would be asking him to give up in terms of what his, his plan would be.
Yeah, we kind of looked at it on Google Maps. I think I can pull that up here real quick.
Right. But I see it does fit in with what's right across the alley. So.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that.
Right.
But yeah, when you look at Google Maps, the Cosset Street Garden goes all the way to this house here. And then when you look at the rezone, the zoning here. So yeah, when you look at it here, you can see that this is the house, and that would be approximately this line, which would be 1, 2, and 3. That's where Michael is getting the 3 parcels from,
Yeah.
was because it's the 10 parcels are approximately equal to the 10 that are along Stanley. That'd be just on the back side of the alley.
I'm just wondering what what you can finagle in a conversation. All right, thanks.
Yeah, it's asking for a lot, and I wish him luck on
Right.
that call.
Hey, Christian, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Zach Sunderland. I'm a Champion resident, so I've been living here for about a little bit more than a year. Does the applicant, he already owns that property?
Correct. Yep.
Does he also own the one on the northwest corner there?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I know it'd be a pain in the butt to move a garden, but it seems like that it could fit perfectly there. And I understand that garden's been there for a very long time and
Yeah.
having to start fresh, but it seems like it could be a compromise if it comes to that.
We get rid of the
I
concrete.
think that's something that I know my wife and I we've brought that up, and we've amongst ourselves that might be a good solution, because especially that spot in the existing condition is just like an old parking lot. So to turn asphalt into green space would be a win-win in my book.
Yeah, I wonder what. So it's the same. He owns that as well.
Yep. Yeah.
I wonder what his intentions are for that, because I mean, it seems it looks like you wouldn't be able to have garages if you were to do the same thing. It looks like a little skinnier, it just doesn't look as wide as it does between Costas and the alleyway now. So I'm wondering, what the intentions are. Is you probably wouldn't be able to put garages in there.
If the house was east-west, like the one next to it, I think you could have a garage in the back.
Right.
So you'd have the garage back here, and then the house up front, so to match the one next to it.
Christian, Atticus here, just to mention too, when I raised that question in regards to the garden and potentially having it, moved elsewhere within the neighborhood, I know that was at our last meeting, I believe, which feels like a long time ago, but and they had mentioned that they were now, whether this was, I don't want to say true, but whether they were actively doing this or whether it was just something that they have thought about, they had mentioned that they were looking at a potentially alternative, location to have the garden. Obviously, that's kind of dwindling slowly and, more and more, as the neighborhood and empty lots develop. So I know that was something that they had considered. I know that there's a couple options, that the garden, if that was to be a proposal, because I've also thought about potentially that cement, blacktop lot. I mean, Liz and I have taken the dogs there before. Being turned into a green space, some recommendations for duty might be, to form the garden as a 501c3 might make it a little bit easier if it isn't already, to seek out some potential funds, maybe to even help with, maybe purchasing that, lot. And, if they were willing to turn it into a garden, maybe they'd be willing to sell it for $1, back to 501c3 for the garden. I know it'll be challenging getting any funds from the city, because there is there's technically a city park, that's a block away from that space.
Yeah, go back and park there.
Yeah, so that may be challenging, but I think those are good options if it feels like they're willing to work with duty, and obviously those who want to see this garden, remain, even if it's moved. I think those are some good ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's also the urban forest just further down Kossuth.
Is this Zach who showed up on the neighborhood group and asked about joining about 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was likely me.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to see you.
Yeah. Hopefully meet you all in person soon. And thanks, Liz, for that information. I will I'll get that in order and send it that way. Thanks.
With that being said, with this, it's challenging for me too, because, I remember we talked about this at the last zoning meeting, and Aaron Kreese mentioned this. It really is shocking that they're not coming before us recommending more of like a townhome kind of style, or even proposing like a 2-story, apartment complex. I recognize the reasons why they just chose outright to go with the single family homes, because they knew that was going to be the easiest, case to make, to residents. Obviously, multi-family complexes often face significantly bigger challenges when it comes to getting approval from civic associations and commissions. Even,
Certainly.
when there's a big call and need for density, it's still a lot of challenges. But I'm certainly not one to go before and give a big thank you to any developer, but they obviously could have made this a much more complicated and larger development, and still been within the recommendations that the city has given for development within the neighborhood.
100%. Like this, they're taking they could have gone a lot larger and could have been well within their rights with how it is currently zoned. So this is a lot less dense than what it could be.
Yeah, and I think any longer that this sits, it's probably likely would get more dense. So, matching what is already kind of the street, the current situation that way, and even farther down Kossuth, I think, fits pretty well in this spot.
Can you scroll down to where that forest is on Kossuth?
Yeah.
To the east.
So it's this corner here at Carpenter and Kossuth.
Yeah, so that's where that is. Okay. Another green space, so to speak.
And then you go
And then
another
there's
2
that
blocks, you
park.
have Martin Park.
Martin Park. Okay.
Kossuth is apparently the street with all the parks and gardens.
Yeah. Well, we need to keep it that way.
Yeah. And then in the end, you get down to Roosevelt here, right? Yeah. Roosevelt's just off Kossuth too.
I didn't know that. All right. Never thought of it. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. I've jogged.
Yeah. Kossuth is our garden street.
Okay.
And did he say, and I think did he say that they purchased that lot for $100,000?
That is correct.
That's a steal, because that lot is $1 million lot.
Oh yeah.
So, had they purchased that lot for $1 million, we would certainly be looking at a much larger scale development. I mean, that's literally a steal. They'll make their money back, and
they'll make it back on like the first house.
Yeah, the first home they'll have cut a profit, which in this market, with margins so small when it comes to building costs, they're probably cheesing, at the deal that they got.
Yep. And they've had it for 2 years now.
Who'd they buy it from? Does that say they
The
bought it from
Salvation
Salvation Army?
Yep.
Huh. Salvation Army sold cheap.
Yeah, it was actually for sale for a while when I first moved to the neighborhood. And yeah, unfortunately, it
the worm has turned.
Seemed like Michael Duty had says he got the funds, but they had already been, working a deal out with the current property owner. So.
Thank you. This is all very interesting stuff. I got to go. Thank you. This is a much better meeting than the one I was in before. So I appreciate that.
Oh.
Happy to hear.
All right.
That's
Bye-bye.
good. Bye.
And Christian, I don't want to jump and head it off for you, so I want to throw it out there and finish up. I just have a couple updates from the Giant Eagle redevelopment.
Oh yeah, I saw everything was like voted down.
Yeah, but I obviously, finish up. I want to take any of your time, and then whatever.
Oh no, you're
if there's
good.
any extra time, happy to give an update whenever you're done.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I was just mostly wanting to kind of get people's ideas on what's going on here. So yeah, I'm all ears on the Whittier Giant Eagle there.
Yeah, so all the streetlights are out in our neighborhood again. And I'm really
That's
curious as to
unfortunate.
why. And I'm gonna look into it.
They were up last night.
Yeah, they were off the night before, then they were back up last night, and now they're off again tonight because it is dark. Maybe they're just trying to get into the Halloween spirit. And I'm just getting home, so I apologize. So maybe fill in this time with a couple minutes, like 2 minutes, and I'm gonna get into my house because I want to make sure I can give you guys all the information accurately.
Yeah, no worries. What else do I have? I really don't have much. I was in a meeting before this. Well, not really a meeting. The president of my company got an award from Homeport, which is a local affordable housing organization. So I was listening in on that, and apparently, currently in Franklin County, there are 54,000 families who are paying over 50% of their income on housing, which is scary and sad and most unfortunate. So affordable housing is important, and I wish we had more power to be able to make those changes. So that's what I have to be able to fill the time, Atticus.
Yeah, you're not on mute.
Sorry, I'll mention that
You're still not on mute, Liz.
no. Sorry, Atticus just got home, so we had a little echoing. I want to mention that I will be attending the Nationwide Children's Good Neighbor Agreement meeting next week. So if there are any, development, planning, zoning questions for them, feel free to send them my way and I can bring those up during that meeting. Also, Healthy Homes is planning to give some kind of update at our next meeting as well. So those are my updates.
Thanks, Liz.
I'll just keep going since Atticus is logging on or something. We usually get a lot of updates on the road construction at that meeting. They usually go over what kind of ODOT's plans and city plans are at the Nationwide Children's Good Neighbor meeting. So
Oh, that'll be good with how much is going on Parsons and Newberry.
yeah. So they have some updates, though. It seems that every time they update us, their plans just change again. So
That sounds right.
yeah.
All right. Sorry, I am in front of my computer now, so just wanted to be able to get everything up. So in regards, if you're not aware, the Giant Eagle, which is on Whittier Street, 280, I believe 280 Whittier, was purchased by the Pizzuti companies. Thank you, Christian. And as you can see the site there, you've got Ebner Street to the west, Casa Street to the north, Jager Street to the east, and Whittier Street to the south. And it was suspected that they were going to develop that. Giant Eagle's contract ends at the end of this year, and they did announce that they would not be extending that contract. That the model now for a smaller urban grocery store just simply isn't profitable, and that they would be ending their contract with now Pizzuti companies. So Pizzuti companies came before initially the Schumacher Place Civic Association. You may think that Giant Eagle falls within German Village, which obviously then there'd be significant regulations as far as the development. It does not. It falls in Schumacher Place. It's kind of right on the line there. You've also got Marion Village coming up alongside of it, German Village and Schumacher Place, with Marion Village across the street in part of kind of by Jaeger, yeah, and then there as where Christian is kind of that's awesome, Schumacher Place there, and then Marion Village across the street. They came like almost a year ago with kind of an initial conceptual proposal, and it's essentially calling for a pretty big development that has obviously gotten quite a lot of engagement from the community. Pizzutis is proposing a fairly large development. It is, and I'm pulling it up right now just to make sure, it's 8,000 square feet of commercial space. And actually, can I share my screen? If somebody can, yeah, I can. Christian, if you don't mind, sorry, I'm going to share my screen if you don't mind. Okay.
Please go ahead.
So can you guys see that? So this is the initial conceptual design that they have given. As you can see, there's some outer exterior light green space, but primarily there's 2 courtyards within the space that Pizzutis has said would be accessible to the public. Much of the feedback from both residents and even some commissioners is that green space be moved along Casa Street here to the north, so that it integrates more in with the community and doesn't feel as closed off. Here are the initial conceptual designs from the outside of it. There would be 8,000 square feet of commercial space on the first floor, with much of that running right up to Whittier Street. As you can see here is what that would look like if, for instance, you were standing across the street on Whittier looking at it, Jaeger Street view with some additional residential Casa Street view. They obviously integrated additional brick into the conceptual designs along Casa, since that's in the residential area, and then Grant, which would be the alley. And as you can see right here, there'd be an underground parking lot that would be accessible via that alley, which is the alley you probably are accustomed to driving into when you're getting into the parking lots for Giant Eagle. The metrics, just over 8,000 square feet. Total units would be 330 units on that, with parking at 236 stalls. And as you can see, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-story tall. 4-story, I think, is what they're technically calling it, but obviously there's an additional 5th floor that I believe, at least in their initial, although I may be incorrect, that's like maybe some like event space and just kind of like upper areas for residents to be able to enjoy. Obviously, many new developments are kind of this whole sort of, especially developments like this, it's whole sort of like city living, urban experience. There's like a gym and a coffee bar and, rec room. So anyways, that came before the Civic. The Civic Vote on their initial vote was overwhelming. It was the most turnout that any civic association has had in regards to a proposal. In regards to the rezoning application, there were 15 for it and 390 against it. And then for the proposed council variance application, there was 17 for it and 385 against it. So total of 405 residents turned out for their vote, and those were verified residents. They did a very transparent, open, rigorous verification process for the voting. So obviously enormous opposition to that. And, obviously there's a lot of development in Schumacher Place. They've had a lot of frustrations in regards to, the zoning process and kind of just, sort of outdated zoning like laws and feeling as if neighborhood residents don't have a voice when it comes to big development, which hey, surprise, we typically don't. And so but that is just an overwhelming number. Outside of that, both Marion Village and German Village have also teamed up with Schumacher Place. And actually, I just got the email. The German Village, a board of trustees for the German Village Society wrote a combined letter signed as the board of trustees against the development, which was pretty big. So with that being said, nothing's a guarantee right now. Essentially, they met with the zoning commission, which Curtis Davis chairs for the Columbus Southside Area Commission, led the zoning committee meeting. The committee for the zoning committee chose to not vote for the development, which was interesting. Unsurprising when it comes to a big time development like this, that they may choose to not give a recommendation. And so with that being said, it will now move to the commission. However, Curtis Davis has some powers as the chair of that committee. For the 280 project, and this is from him, I will be calling a special meeting to discuss and see if the applicant has a better solution to the proposal at hand. They came with different drawings to the Civic meeting and have shown a desire to work more of a compromise on the project. Addendum B of the bylaws of the Columbus Southside Area Commission gives the zoning chair the option in section 5 with 7-day notice. So they're scheduling a special meeting on October 31st. And at the time of that email, which was yesterday, they were just waiting on confirmation from council. So it'll be a special meeting that'll be held via Zoom to have additional conversation in regards to this development before it comes to the commission. With that being said, it will come before the commission if they decide to move forward and they don't withdraw the application. It'll come before us on the 27th. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month. That's the 24th. I apologize, where we will vote on that. So if you have any feedback in regards to that development, same website, columbusSouthside.org. You'll find all the commissioner email addresses and you can send your thoughts there. Thank you. I yield my time. Also, though, happy to answer the questions.
I don't think I have any questions. That is good job to Schumacher Place for getting so many people out. So the actual, I guess, yeah, the special meeting is on the 24th prior to the 27th commission meeting.
Correct. That's my understanding. I've not seen that meeting be made public yet, which means, obviously with just a lot at hand here, Curtis is trying to make sure he's covering his bases. So we reached out to the city to make sure we were following, bylaws or any city, like regulations code, making sure the applicant was available during that, within that time. And obviously making sure that, Schumacher residents and specifically the Civic would be available during that time as well. So I've not seen the meeting go out public yet, so they may still be waiting to hear back, but that's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Good to know. But yeah, I don't have anything else, and we have fulfilled our whole hour for the zoning. This has been a good conversation. I'll send out an email here to bring up the ColumbusSouthside.org, so that way if we want to start getting involved, sending messages that way for organizational purposes, and then bringing up the Duncan versus Middlefield, so that way people can have some resources and understand where everything's coming from. But yeah, I appreciate everyone taking time on a busy night to come out and learn, speak a little bit. I appreciate everything you've done, Atticus. You're doing good work.
Well, and thanks, Christian, and really thank you for getting this committee started. This is can be one of the most challenging but most important committees. You know, unfortunately, I think there's a pro and con to that. It's important simultaneously. I think it has a tendency to kind of take up so much of the conversation at the civic level. With that being said, obviously it's important work, and we will have this uploaded on the Southern Orchard Civic Association YouTube page, which we now have at our YouTube channels at Southern Orchard Civic. So I believe Liz started recording and or it just auto started recording, or you did that. So we'll make sure to get that uploaded to the YouTube channel and push it out as well.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.